calculated display. Statues, artistic figures, buildings, everything was designed with a meaning. And tattoos are no exception. So today I'm gonna bring it to you the beginning and the purpose which tattoos became a thing in our humanity. So with the purpose that I can instruct you guys on how these things are in our society and how you can use them for your own advantage as a man. So we're gonna begin in in the early stages of humanity when the human being used figures and artistic features in its body and with the sources from the nature as a way to express themselves um, through their family and their tribe, which was the most important thing for them. So we have records that tattoos were served as a little roadmap of a person's life within a tribe. They marked a lineage, tribe affiliation, marriage status, and major achievements. So at that time, earning a tattoo wasn't just simply a artistical or a purposely done work job for aesthetic purposes, right? So tattoos they were engraved and the tribes individuals, meaning that they achieved something, meaning they went through a sort of ritual. And another specific cultures among around the world, they used primarily the tattoo as a therapeutic healing and a medicine. So the Egyptians they would apply ink in their joints as a way to relieve pain, um, specifically for women when they were giving birth. And we have the religious and the spiritual side of that, which will be a loop connection to what I have to bring you as a man to analyze in the world. So the spiritual side is that indigenous cultures and tribes around Eurasia, Africa, and some parts of the America, lines that follow throughout the body, they weren't just a design meant for nothing. They were there as a shamanism. So what does that mean? That would basically mean that through those lines, every single of those lines, they wouldn't mean like a shield of protection for their body, for their soul, being ready against the evil spirits when they would go to battles. So this is a ancient belief that humans they have inherited in the world, and throughout the centuries, we can see as well that it has a big effect on the woman culture, along with the wave of the feminism. So after a while of those ancient tribes and nomads that I just mentioned before, in the Victorian era, sailors and prostitutes, they were among the couple individuals outcasted from the society, meaning they were seen as outsiders, people that didn't belong at the high society or the normal norms of how society worked at that time. So they included criminals, sailors, circus performers, and of course sex workers. And we go something interesting to point out is that the circus people had specific ladies at that time in the late 1800s and early 1900s. There's two individuals, two ladies that they were really notorious for using tattoos as a show, as a sideshow. One of them is called Maud Wagner, and the other one was Nora Hildebrand. They covered their bodies with ink and paraded in the circus, just as a sideshow. So, throughout the centuries, we can see it that it is a practice already used as a calculated display, something to call the attention and to draw the attention and to keep some sort of meaning subtle in the words. So, okay, with all the history, what that can be applied in your life as a male, as a young guy in your 20s. So, I want to go over again another academic knowledge, which is symbols. Symbols that have meanings. Like I said, everything is calculated. Nothing is drawn or structured or designed for no purpose. So, even years before this whole movement of changing and altering your body, images and icons and symbols have been used in many different ways to display different intentions. So the Greeks, they had their mythology, they had their statues and their mythology gods, and the way they would describe it and design their statues would have been a way that they would display it. And a good example of that would be the Medusa. Medusa is a symbol of mythological figure, a woman with hair made by snakes that would look at you and change your soul completely. Some sort of protection. Something that you can see it around is that you can attach it to the personality traits, which would be trauma and a feel of defense, something that is inside and wants to a defense of itself. Of course, completely anti-patriarchal stance, fake smooth stance. Other symbols that are really notorious among girls and promiscuous individuals is butterflies. This is just the most common one that we see around. Butterflies and moths. Well, basically it means transformation, the beauty and freedom. A individual which is freely to do choices, impulsive thoughts, and is not afraid of new experiences. Actually is really looking for new experiences. Another one, serpent and the snake, rebirth, danger, and temptation. So like in the Bible and every other story that uses a snake, it means a duality of personality. Brings the side of sensuality, which sparks the unknown, it sparks the pleasure, but also brings the fear of the danger, what the unknown is capable to bring. Fine line florals, okay, that kind of stuff is like design, entry-level boundary testing. Okay, this is the pinnacle. This is the pillar of what I'm exactly talking about here. Lower back, hip line placement. So, calculating display. Accentuating curves with a purpose for attractive views. Intentionally placed for private and intimacy access. It's just a high signal noise ratio for a physical intent. So guys, what I'm trying to say here, through those meanings, you can understand how things work in life, how when you go out to a club, mostly the girls there, they have the same tattoos, they have some altercations of the same tattoos, and you can see patterns and personalities. So with all those that I mentioned to you, they they show a sort of weakness that a individual has. So this is not a cheat code. This is mainly a filter that you can insert it, download it in your mind, and day by day you can view, analyze, and target possible victims, right? For um, your silly intentions, if I could put it that way. So among all through all these, you can among through all these, among all of these, researches have been done, and with them we can arrive at the principle that girls with body art, they score higher on social sexual openness. What does that mean? That means they are not attached to the traditional norms of the dating um, aspect or the dating culture. So they're more less sensible, less attachable for longer relationships. That's which you are exactly looking for, numbers, right? That's exactly what you as a man is looking for. But hey, I'm just warning you now, right? Before, without this history and this information compelling you, compelled here, I just want to warn you. So you see, I described all of those meanings of those symbols. Those have real psychological traits. So what I want to say is that all those things that I just mentioned to you, the meaning of the snake, the serpent, the moth, the butterflies, they reflect how the personality is. So you gotta be ready, man. You gotta be ready for the kind of stuff you're gonna be dealing with. You gotta be ready for the low energy, the depressed emotions, and then the switch of high and low, happy and sad, dangerous and seductive and romantic, because those things are real. So the psychological research of social sexual orientation inventory shows that individuals, I'm talking about women's here because that's what mainly we focus about, right? That's what we like. But that happens with men as well. Many strippers, male strippers, they have the same patterns as other women sexual workers. Um, Many studies link body modification directly to higher levels of sensation seeking. So we're not just limiting ourselves on a tattooing. We're talking about hair modification, body modification, nose jobs, you know, any sort of ultra or something that blows the boundaries just shows a altercation and a psychological order that a certain individual has. So it means a tattoo requires enduring a lot of pain. So to want to go through that, they must have been going through something a little bit harder to be able to take that pain, so then they look at themselves fulfilled. So by that, it's just the rejection of traditional roles. There's nothing wrong with that, but we can see it that this behavior is attached which leads to the casual sex life. So next time you go out with your friends, and man, you're gonna notice that people and their intentions and how they move, how their energy are displayed to you, and the symbols that they have in their body, they have a meaning. So without that being said, you can usually use that for your bare arms, be able to, score some games out in the nightclubs. Um, I heard a saying from a guy a couple of months ago that says, "Not every girl that has a tattoo is a prostitute, but every prostitute has a tattoo." Without that being said, man, you be careful out there, learn with other mistakes, and yeah, protect your heart. Until the next time. É isso, pai.